Hi there, everyone. This is Maxor, and today we're going to be trying something new for the director's cut thing, where I realize it's easier as a watch along, basically. So, as a reward for Patreon stuff, thank you, of course, for your support. We are going to be watching the video together, not really, but I'm going to be going over sort of like little insights and my thoughts on the video as it plays, perhaps pausing a lot actually to talk. But yeah, we should just get into this so you can kind of understand my mentality and stuff.
Yakuza 0 is a groundbreaking business management
So-
and unhinged violence simulator.
I do regret at the beginning of the video, I'm very excited to work on the video. I'm really into it and I like doing a lot of effects and stuff like that. Here's the thing about YouTube though. The bitrate is dog shit. If you look at the image on screen right now, it's dog shit. We're getting to the point where I'm editing a little too fast for the bitrate. It's okay. It's not the worst. But at this point as well, as far as the human eye is concerned, it's a little too fast. Later on in my video, I nailed the speed correctly, in my opinion. But when I'm editing for the very first time, and I'm, usually I take a break, and I get into it, and I edit a lot of clips really quickly. It's just how I am. Also, the intro is, it's the first impression, so it should impress you if possible.
Where the player is tasked with the thorough exploration of people's faces using your fists. In this Oriental-inspired entertainment product, it's up to you to beat dastardly criminals nearly to death, manage the economy.
I zoom in too much as well, but that's a side thing. Fun fact, actually. Do you see that GIF at the top right of the video? The one where he's, printing money for the stock market. Well, when I went to search that GIF, I went to Google Images and I typed inflation GIF because the image is about inflation, and I was thinking of where can I get this GIF from? Let's search for inflation GIF. It was a bad idea. Don't Google inflation GIF. Don't do it.
Manage women as a pimp. Do the yoinky sploinky. Grant pizza to the illiterate, and so...
Also, I didn't know this until after the video, but apparently yoinky sploinky also means vehicular manslaughter. I thought it was like a dance.
More. In the backdrop of a murder mystery crime drama incited by rampant real estate speculation,
This has too much cutting in it,
Yakuza,
but I've already gone over that.
And Goro meningitis as they prowl the streets of that weird city from Persona 5.
Also, a lot of sound effects in this video are actually not the sound effects in game. Let's listen to this one.
In excess of justified self-defense.
Right there, and
mugging.
right there. A few of those are part of the video, but a lot of sound effects that I've added in are from different parts of the game where it sounds cleaner. So if I have a clip of a guy punching somebody, the odds are that it's actually just a clip of a sound clip from a different punch that I just copy and paste because it sounds cleaner. Basically, it doesn't have as much screaming or whatever.
To spend their ill-gotten gains on increasingly odd behavior, all in an effort to untangle a sinister power struggle taking place within the Silly Spaghetti People Club, with such esteemed members as the entire cast of Goodfellas and of Sundowner from the Metal Goose.
Fun fact about this.
Members as the entire cast of Goodfellas and of Sundowner.
This clip here, he says 9/11, right? And I sort of cover up the subtitles of him saying 9/11 by zooming him in. And then I replace the subtitles with anomalous plane event as he yells 9/11. Why do I do this? What's the joke? My entire channel was once almost suspended because I included a picture of 9/11 in an unlisted video. And ever since then, it's basically, you can't, I'm not risking it. I'm not going to put pictures of 9/11 in my videos anymore. Even if you can't see any people at all, and it's just the plane and the building, you can't do it, basically. So that's kind of the joke.
From the Metal Goose series. Of course, innocents will be caught in the crossfire. It's an inclusive game, but whether I was on the stage, getting invested in the plot, performing gentrification, or just watching literal in-game pornography.
I don't go over this in the side activities thing because it's a very, very simple premise. But yes, when you play the game and you go to the shop, you can see the porn minigame. and it's softcore. You know, they're in bikinis, but it's kind of weird. And for that clip in particular, I did
in the plot, performing gentrification, or just watching literal.
I did cut out the entire thing because it was quicker than manually censoring, and I just included whatever clip I wanted in there.
In-game pornography. I was always held at the edge of my seat, wondering what could possibly come next. So despite the darkness and absolute certain murder, it maintains a tonal dissonance I can only describe as neck-shattering in a way that is always a breath of fresh air. With all this said and done, I invite you to enjoy the bizarre world of Yakuza 0 and the thrilling experience of its dimensional karaoke.
This is the part of the video that I edited first, by the way. This is the part of the video that I edited because I didn't know that I wanted to do a Yakuza video. So just keep that in mind. This is the very first thing that I touched. And so it has like the best clips in it because at that time everything was new to me. I'm very, very proud of this, by the way. This is my best editing. And in fact, this transition here is not perfect, but it is the best transition, one of the best transitions I've ever done, where it sort of mimics the star pattern in the video that's present. But after a certain point, I can't keep it up, and I just spherize it. It's kind of interesting. That's for editing, though. By the way, if you do want to know like how I do those effects, for the other patron tiers, like if you have a $5 tier, pretty soon you're going to be getting the editing video. And when I do the editing video, I'm going to sort of restart it, which means I'm going to assume that you know nothing about me. And then I'm going to do it re-explaining it
we employ to atomize people into their base particles. With 2 playable characters and 8 unique fighting styles, there is always variation. And for the blind people in my audience, Yakuza is a beat-em-up. Fighting styles, there is always variation. And for the
here, I actually just straight up downloaded a Braille font, and I didn't think like I didn't think people would think it was very funny. It was just something I did to buy time, because you'll notice that
with 2 playable characters,
all of these clips,
fighting styles,
they all involve little touches. They involve time, especially. But for this,
there is always variation. And for the blind people in my audience,
it's just a blurred background and some Braille. It actually saves me time if I do stuff like that. Fun fact.
Is a beat-em-up in the most literal sense possible, matching the player against absolute Mongolian.
You'll also notice that in almost every one of these clips, there is some kind of adjustment to the motion, whether it's zoomed in, tracking something.
Don't worry,
even that one is zoomed in. That one zoomed in. That one zoomed in. That one zoomed in. I do a lot of motion tracking.
We attack using a flurry of different, intricate combos to build our primordial rage meter, which we use to cause the real damage in the form of hundreds of completely absurd animations ranging from light jabs to permanent injury and certain death. The beauty in all of this is that, like the beautiful and respectable sound,
that was a mistake, by the way, in the script writing.
The beauty in all of this is that, like the beautiful.
The beauty in all of this is that, like the beautiful. Don't do that. Don't say beautiful twice. It's literally a script error. I just didn't realize. Because I was too busy narrating and editing, I didn't realize I made a mistake.
And respectable sounding Japanese language expulsion of our death resource is context sensitive, with possibly hundreds of different, entirely unique animations, all dedicated to Kiryu's never-ending war on bones.
War on Bones is the funniest thing I've ever written. There's nothing else I've written that's funnier.
Are you carrying a giant cone? That's an animation. Are you near a ledge on this one level? Well, not to worry. Or maybe you just have a box. Serve that shit up faster than FedEx. Every single takedown.
That clip originally had me say, serve that shit up faster than Amazon. But when I was recording, I just couldn't really say it for some reason. I changed it to FedEx. I don't know why. I think it's just a way that the initial A sounds Amazon. And it kind of screwed me up with how I was trying to do the voice, so I changed it to FedEx.
Down is this gratuitously violent, but don't worry, neither of our characters canonically kill anyone. We just give them lifelong disabilities that are worse than death. Since I'm feeling generous, let's talk about exactly how. Playing as Kiryu Kazoo.
For some reason, my narration sounds worse there, and I can't figure out why. I redid it like 3 times, and I couldn't figure out like how to make it sound better.
Our fighting styles consist of the Brawler, a classic, fast-moving fighting style.
I also really regret making the editing at this part so quick and so zoomed in on everything.
And Monkey Mode, which instantly adds several
too
hundred
fast,
pounds of muscle mass that you then
that's
have
how
to
I
drag
do.
around. It's not very good.
People got really mad at me for saying that this style is not good. People got very mad at me for saying the B style was not good. But I'm going to show you this clip because apparently people didn't see it.
That you then have
you do good AoE with it. Whatever. It's punishing and does a lot of damage. It's interesting. But you can see here in this clip, I pick up this bike and I'm in the process of swinging it, but I'm punched once and I instantly fall over and drop the bike. Every time I played as beast mode, this exact scenario would happen where 2 or 3 people would simply knock me over whenever I was trying to do literally anything, and I got so pissed off that eventually I had encountered a problem where I didn't have enough footage of beast mode. I have practically no footage of it because playing it was so unfun.
Switching to our next character, Pirate Captain Goro Majima gives us the funky styles. As a thug, we have a wide range of generic moves and the fucking neck snapping power. I don't think they're going to get back up. As a breakdancer, yes, a breakdancer, we sacrifice takedowns for style in the most absurd and flashy way possible. And as a slugger, we cheat by pulling out the fucking baseball bat and wield it like nunchucks, letting us hit quite hard.
You'll notice that I do this animation with Goro Majima striking them with the bat, winding up, and then hitting them on the floor. I show this animation maybe 4 or 5 times. But I feel like I space it out and I give different zooms and I give different color correction each time. Whenever he does this animation, I might add a different sound effect. I might change the color correction. I might zoom slightly. You'll notice that this clip is actually zoomed. And I do this because it's a way to not make it look samey. Because otherwise, you would notice. But I feel like it's fast enough and the game repeats them enough and the game is slightly different camera angles every time that it's acceptable. And it turned out it was acceptable. It did work out.
And exploit every boss in the game. He just can't do anything. On top of this, there are 2 secret fighting styles normally completely inaccessible to the player, and unfortunately the process for their acquisition is very interesting. One might say physically painful. As early as Chapter 7, you're given the business opportunity of establishing a whore monopoly, and Majima takes
I regret putting this so early.
To unlock the final fighting style, we will have to run
It's tangentially related to the fighting styles, and therefore I can relate it.
Prostitution daimyo of Japan. It will be a fun side quest, I told
in
myself.
retrospect, I kind of regret putting the cabaret mini game so early in the video. It's only like 4 minutes in.
There are many ways to run a high society
and it represents a slowdown in the pace.
But a true manager of a great
I would like it to be somewhere more in the middle.
Factors to
maybe
consider.
a few
Contrary to popular belief, all women are different, but like the caste system, all people can be classified. Our objective is to keep the customer as happy as possible.
Not a fan of my narration here, but
it's
fine.
Some girls are cute, others are great at conversation, and some are skilled. Akina has a degree in biomedical engineering. Poor patrons, like me, have very low expectations and can be pleased with rubbing rocks together, while wealthy patrons have refined tastes like...
That is the worst edited shot in the video.
Can be pleased with
the one with
rocks
this
together,
one,
while wealthy patrons have refined tastes.
It just kind of sits there and shows different ones, and then this stupid fucking emoji comes out. I don't know why I edited it like this. It sucks.
Like physical and mental abuse. Every employee has their limits, and it's up to you to stretch them as far as possible. Truly, we are the Bezos of cabaret. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'll be attending the Poor People Hunt.
I accidentally made Poor People Hunt way louder than the surrounding audio, so it sounds strange. I forgot.
Of course, as a proper host, it's up to you to attend to every customer, whereupon things go from relaxing to batshit. Every time you wait at a table, you'll receive a cryptic
by this point,
from the girl,
I was running out of clips.
What the customer desires.
Because the cabaret clips are pretty samey.
What the fuck are you trying to say? I don't know.
This was the one thing I was excited to edit. The rest
every time you
is just like looking at the tables, looking at all the tables.
So over the course of a never-ending
that kind of shit.
grind,
So
I was
it
given the
was
most
really
painful
difficult
migraine I will ever get
to like actually figure out how to edit it and make it look entertaining.
By the way, this game is
So
a
I was really
demo,
happy
so to
when I
conclude
finished
our
it.
Cabaret adventure, our reward is the Mad Dog style, which allows you to wield a knife and sprint at fucking breakneck velocity, striking your foes like a cracked up Doberman and unlocking takedowns that straight up kill people. Oh fuck, that looks pretty sharp. Anyways, good luck. Playing with the knife style is absolutely an experience, one that I would never repeat.
That one is way too color correct. Look at this. That's a little too much. It borders on not helping the user understand as much.
One that I would never repeat ever again. So when I heard that unlocking the other secret style involved 8 hours of the real estate quest, I probably had a PTSD attack.
This was originally going to be longer, by the way, and I actually cut it short because it was too like boring. Just, I don't know. Fighting and people dying and being hit and stuff doesn't sync well with Baka Mitai. So I cut it short, but here is what remains. Also, yes, I did sort of green screen or cut out Kiryu's photo that he looks in the little music video in order to add more visual flavor, because otherwise it would be extremely jarring and strange. And it turns out it worked. Also, for this shot of Goro Majima having like it zoom in and zoom out and look very strange, that's all manual. That's like all me just doing it with keyframes. And I'm specifically in this case trying to make it look like somebody is zooming in a camera wrong. And I think it works really well. It looks like somebody's scrolling wrong. That took me like a while to do. Because doing things that try to look natural are the hardest thing, basically.
Kiryu is going to have to do without the poopy farto style. I have a fucking fish to feed.
Yeah, so that's my actual fish that I have. He came to me in like a bowl. His name is Coco. And I knew that he would die in that bowl because betas, like once their tank is kind of dirty, or if the water hasn't been changed for a bit, they will just jump out of the bowl and die. So
take my advice. Yakuza 0 has a lot of side content, and if you happen to be a completionist, stay away, or you might just be locked in the Facebook game for 3 days. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'll be spending the rest of my day betting on
this is the part of the video I really wanted to make ever since the beginning. Chapter 3 is my favorite.
You know, when I first played this game, I expected brutal combat. I expected silly takedowns, but what I didn't
You'll also notice that the clips are a bit slower. They're transitioning a little better, and they're all like focused on something. And if it's a cut like normally in the same clip. This is the editing that I like, and I think what happens is every time I enjoy doing a section of my video, my editing gets better. So in the Cabaret minigame, I would describe my editing as like trying too hard, because I had no real direct inspiration. I had no creativity there. I say I have no creativity, but I guess it's a relative thing.
Was the hour I spent with the claw machine.
I'm having a fucking blast.
I don't think I need to play pool for 3 hours, but
that line, pool, I had to say it in such a way that it wouldn't actually, you wouldn't hear it pop on the microphone. And I know I have a pop filter on this microphone. It's all right. But when I need to play pool, that P noise is very hard to get on film correctly, or like on recording correctly, without sounding like really loud and jarring. So it took me several tries to say pool correctly there.
just put it in. And let me tell you, nothing sells the fictional world of Japan better than a good night on the town. So at this point, I started wondering what kind of game I was actually playing. It turns out that Yakuza 0 is a lot like reality. You always need more money, mostly for upgrades where you inject money directly into your arms and collect every vaccine. But secondarily, healthcare never comes free. So every time you take damage, you're gonna have to consume to fill the void inside, or alternatively, carry thousands of dollars in medicine.
That part, like this editing in this, it's hard to describe, but the way that I have things flow into the frame,
alternatively, carry thousands
that little
of dollars
thousands flowing in, and the medicine, and they're moving at different rates. All of this is manually tweaked, of course, but I love it. It's so good, especially since you can actually see this little green screen
There
of
is no
Kiryu, who
limit
has nothing to do with
juicing.
the
It's no
actual
exaggeration to say that Yakuza's difficulty
video,
depends
but, you know, he
entirely
looks
on
good.
how much of a Sigma male you are. Kiryu might not get
Every
any
time I
pussy,
don't
but
have something
he
to
is
show,
getting
I show a
paid.
green
You might
screen of
think that
Kiryu
beating
or
up the
Majima,
homeless
basically.
is the way to go, but that is for babies. If you want to make the real dough, you'll have to risk it all on gambling.
I was very, very concerned for this section that I was going to get demonetized. I realize now that this was not really a very legitimate fear, but I was very worried at the time. So we're going to see the results of that.
More specifically, betting on scantily clad women beating each other half to death. And because
It's not
of
that
the
bad here, but you'll notice that I have censored her underwear. You'll notice the left woman right there. I have censored her underwear. I hide it. I hide it by using that little mute icon. But it's there. I censored very tiny specific parts that I think maybe would get me cut, basically. It
Right,
was very
music
time consuming to do
and
so.
interesting visuals. Putting this in my video represents me betting my real income. Majima, however, never has money problems because his cabaret pays him several billion yen. The entire plot of the game happens because we're fighting over 1/10 of that.
That is the best transition in my entire video. I forget how I did it.
So it's a shame that I lost all of it. Yes, all 10 billion of it, because I was robbed by a man with fucking orangutan strength.
So here's the down low on that. If I was actually playing and I got robbed $10 billion, I would reload a save. I got 10 billion and then ran into him for footage. Sorry, in videos you lie a lot. You lie quite a bit when you show footage. This is one of those lies that makes the video infinitely more entertaining than if I told the truth. I did not get $10 billion robbed from me while playing. Only when I was editing the video and I wrote the joke did I go and get the footage for that.
This is Mr. Shakedown, and if you ever encounter him, run. It doesn't matter how much you have. It doesn't matter how long you've spent getting it. If you lose to Mr. Shakedown, he will take all 10 billion of it and then disappear to somewhere. So if you want a cent of that back, you better go find him eventually.
That was my most creative thing I've done in the video. I had literally nothing to represent Kiryu going to look for Mr. Shakedown, so I thought of just putting him into that scene because I realized, like, oh, it'd be funny if he sees that and he walks away really fast. That was, like, inspired. I don't know how I thought of that, but it bought a lot of time and was really good.
That's pretty bad. But like all human suffering, this can become a business opportunity. You see, Mr. Shakedown is actually a form of banking. Whatever amount he robs from you, the game will add 15% more, meaning if you're up for the challenge of defeating Harambe, the returns are worth it. At least with this method, your money doesn't vanish into the void.
You'll notice I started using Bakumitai way too much, honestly. Every time anything bad happens to me, or anytime I lose money, such as like in this clip here, I use Bakumitai, and honestly, after this point, the joke gets old, so I should have stopped doing it. But, you know, I don't edit the whole thing in one session, so I'm not always aware necessarily of what came before at a very, very, like, high level. And I don't always think of, like, oh, maybe I should stop using this gag, maybe I should stop doing this thing. A lot of the times I'll be on autopilot. It's just how it is when you edit, and it's like one person.
Of course, that isn't always a bad thing. There's a lot of places to spend our money, and most of them are fun. A little too
A lot
fun,
of these clips are actually slowed down, but you can't tell because I'm using the software to actually interpolate what frames would go there.
Never heard of it. The only game I play is Eels and Escalators. What I'm trying to say is, this is a rabbit hole. A good one. My personal favorite was getting addicted to the bowling minigame and then winning the chicken, who doubles as a financial advisor. Yakuza is not meant to be questioned.
That clip is not from Yakuza 0. It's actually from Yakuza Kiwami 2, I believe. So I just put it in there because it's such a legendary little clip and little thing that I would feel bad if I didn't include the baby quest from Yakuza Kiwami 2, at least visually somewhere. And also, I used it to make a funny joke. As you can see, Discord admins is at the top.
And that isn't even the wackiest game. That honor goes to the phone dating, which takes the form of a shooter. Yes, like Call of Duty. To win a date with the girl of our dreams, we are going to have to pick the right responses from a wide variety of options, most of which are insane, like inviting a girl to fight a marsupial. For some reason, women don't like that. But the best possible outings lean heavily on
So most of this video, I try to have like my goal with the writing was to make everything feel like I was naturally talking. That is to say, it doesn't sharply transition. That was a sharp transition, but you'll notice that the transition between board games into the phone dating felt really natural. It felt like I was saying like, and this is the craziest one. And then I get to talk about an entirely new topic, and then I have to change topic. Basically, when writing a video, changing topic is the hardest thing. Definitely 100% the most difficult. Just because like you will basically you're giving a list. When you make this video is a disguised list. It is this aspect of the game, then this aspect of the game, then this aspect of the game, and they can all be totally unrelated things. You know, how do you smoothly slide from combat into minigames? It's a very difficult question, and there's a lot of different answers you can try.
This game's amazing soundtrack, which features a number of beautiful karaoke themes, stylish disco tracks, and stellar emotional ballads.
I shouldn't have said tracks there twice.
About the karaoke and the dancing, which are both incredible in their style and creativity. They are so out there. So
also, this part is the best editing.
So good.
It has a lot of interesting stuff to it.
In
like
short,
that.
they're everything a dance should be. This scene tells me more about Majima than an entire Hideo Kojima script. Kiryu has never killed anyone, but let me
also,
tell you,
that part had a lot of sharp transitions. I also really liked editing parts like this. I wish I could do more shit like this. It's really fun to edit music videos, basically. It's my actual calling. Also, it was a really good method that I just like thought of when I realized that all the camera angles were the same in the dancing minigames. So I would be able to show 3 different images of different dancing and make it look like a lot of time had passed, like they were dancing for a long time.
Necessary side quests, which allow the player to engage in a variety of small stories, ranging from pizza delivery to replacing a phone battery. That one's a little boring. Small stories, ranging from pizza delivery to replacing a phone battery.
So I did this because I just forgot to record the phone battery quest because it was so boring. I assumed that I would never talk about it. And then I wrote the script and I realized, oh, well, I don't have the battery quest. So I'll just do this. It's not like I had to replay the quest, do another save or anything for like a clip that's this long. Also, if I'm being uncreative, I will just include a lot of VTubers in the clip because I know that reaction channels dig that shit. Whenever they see a VTuber, they like pause and they go, "Is that the VTuber?" Every single time. So every once in a while, I just throw bait for the reaction channels.
That one's a little boring. You can even roleplay as a Persona fan.
That PNG is really cursed. I didn't make it myself. I found it on Google Images once. I typed Kiryu PNG, just trying to look. And it turned out that I found the funniest image possible, which is that terrifying image. Also, I went through a little bit of effort here to sort of
to replacing a phone battery. That one's a little boring. You can even roll.
I went through a little bit of effort with the animation there to try and make it look like it was from Persona, or like that's how it was brought up, even though this is a still image and the thing in Persona is very animated. I've just modified rotation and positioning just to try and make that look more like Persona.
Play as a Persona fan by following a child around the city. Often, these quests will have entirely unique fights and challenges, accompanied by complex moral judgment and logic puzzles. In one instance, I was given the task of infiltrating the cult of Munan Chohept Onas, whereupon
if you don't know, those images are from an actual Japanese cult called Shinrikyo, I believe, was the name. And they were responsible for deadly sarin sarin gas attacks in the Japanese subway system. So I included him. I was thinking of maybe not because of like the whole controversy thing. Like if I included a picture of 9/11, you know, it would be a risk. But screw it. It's just a picture of a guy, right?
I had to learn the practice of Shurapipi.
I custom made that Fallout New Vegas image as well in the video here.
I had to learn the practice.
I don't know why I did it, but I just wanted to. Sometimes I'll have an idea for a joke, and no matter the context, I will want to shove the joke in somewhere because I will be very, very afraid that I will simply forget the joke.
of Shurapipi, the acquisition of Kulipos, and the greeting of Munancho, at which point the game tested me on their exact definitions. I promptly beat their leader to death. In another instance, Kiryu teams up with the famous movie director Steven Spinning, known for his hit film Indian Jeans, to complete a music video with famous international pop star.
Recording this part was hard,
Johnson.
by the way.
I
My
was
voice
hired
wasn't
to
working
beat the
very well.
extras to death. Now that I think about it, every side quest ends with a trip to the hospital, except for the pizza one. That ends in love. It's not delivery, it's DiGiorno. This stands in stark.
That was an actual laugh. Sometimes I'll like fake laugh to make it sound like I'm laughing during a part. But no, that was my actual laugh when I was reading the script. I don't know why. Normally I don't laugh at any point of the script, usually because I'm very pissed off. Recording's hard. It's the hardest part, honestly, in my opinion. I would rather just sit there and edit and not have to worry about recording. Recording takes the most effort. I have to breathe. I have to make sure that like I sound good, that I'm enunciating everything correctly. And it seems like right now I'm able to talk very, very normally and sort of give you everything correctly. But when I'm recording and when I'm facing the microphone and I've got the little shield thing, let me show you real quick. I'll actually put this around the microphone when I'm recording and it makes it sound slightly better. It's probably why this video sounds a little deeper and a little like clearer. Not necessarily like clear in a high pitch, but more of a low pitch sense. I don't really know how to describe it, but I really do like it in the subtle ways that you can actually hear it. And you can only really hear it if you're constantly doing it like me, but your subconsciousness hears it, so that's important.
Contrast to the actual plot of the game, which is played completely straight. Taking everything I've said before into account, you might think this is weird, and sometimes it is. One day, you might be saving a helpless blind woman, and the next, abandoning her so you can play Idolmaster for several days. I'm sure that she'll be just fine.
That was really hard to edit this one thing because Photoshop was not being cooperative. There were no images of Makoto sitting with like couch. There's no images of Makoto's couch without her sitting in it. So I had to sort of painstakingly Photoshop Makoto out of the image. And I was trying to use Photoshop for it and it wasn't being very cooperative. So this shot alone, this shot of like a little skeleton sitting in the place of Makoto, took a long time. I also had to find a good skeleton image of a skeleton sitting down and leaning back on something and make sure that it worked at the correct angle, maybe how to rotate it a little bit. It was difficult.
But funny anecdotes aside, there is an abundance of real drama and emotion here. Of all the things I expected this game to be, sad was not one of them. Neither did I expect a believable love story or the murder mystery. This game is downright determined to constantly surprise you, even if it has to stop making sense. In Majima's story, we are sent to kill a buff Chinese man before fighting him, teaming up with him to save the innocent.
I'm cutting too much here, but it's okay.
My mind. This exact arc happens with 3 separate characters, and that's just Majima's story. In fact, despite the game being called Yakuza 0,
I really liked that. I don't know why. I like doing stuff that's little visual gags that are completely different jokes from what's actually being talked about. So the joke is that he's sitting in the back listening to the Barbie song as he walks in. And Kiryu's looking at him with suspicion. Completely unrelated, but I have too much of an urge to do stuff like that. It is just, I can't help myself.
Kiryu leaves the family in Chapter 1. Then he fucking rejoins it. Every antagonist has so much goddamn personality that you just don't know when you're gonna be friends with them. Every man is vying for power and control, but each does it for their own distinct reasons. Wano is a Genshin Impact player who only desires money and women. Kuze is a boxer who wants to fight a lot. Shibusawa is obsessed with power, and Nishitani is the Joker. Enemies become friends.
I didn't
Friends
have to
become enemies, and Kuze
say
will
all their
not
names
leave
there,
you alone.
or
The
even
only
describe them.
character who's actually not interested.
But at this point, I was trying to buy time. It's 13 minutes in the video. I still talk for maybe 2 more minutes, right? I ran out of things to talk about. I felt very done with the video by this point. Fatigue was getting to me to some extent. But I had possibly 2 or 3 minutes more. I prefer my videos at 16 minutes. But this one had to be 15. Because I feel like the tone that I set, there wasn't more room for more stuff. I couldn't begin describing the plot, because if I described it in a minute's time, that's not enough time. It would have to be longer, and I could not stomach it being longer than I had to. Um, at this point, I was tired. It's a bit like crunch when you work on a video game, and I thought I just need to get this out. So, why do I begin describing specific characters? By time, I I wrote this as a smooth transition into that, which I'm very proud of. It doesn't feel like this is an unnatural deviation, even though it is.
Is essentially Chinese Spider-Man.
Also, this is buying time as well. Long periods without talking are obviously me buying time.
Holy shit, whose defining feature is that he's ugly. Unless you play the Chinese version of the game, then he's weirdly handsome and also on the cover. But even when playing in the most serious of circumstances, the game still catches you off guard.
Now, at this point, I'm trying to prepare the user for the conclusion, because the conclusion has its own distinct point that's a little separate from the silliness of the video, because most of the video is me showing off the silliness. So I needed, at this point, to kind of keep up the silly tone, but also prepare the person for hearing the outro.
A tense deal with a Yakuza boss can change seemingly at random into a ridiculous combat encounter fighting 90 enraged apes, or in the case of Majima, a visit to the CIA becoming a fever dream in which you have to fight the buff cross-dressers. The game cares more about good gameplay and fun story than actually making sense. It's quite refreshing.
That is the major point of the conclusion. And I'm really glad that I wrote that part, because it actually transitions you quite well. So we're going to see how that leans into the more serious part of the video.
When Yakuza gets serious, it really means something. And when it's being silly, it's absolutely cathartic. Everything has impact, unless it's a gun. We haven't killed anyone, by the way. All in all, Yakuza is more true to life than any other game I've ever played. Not by making sense or being realistic, but emotionally. At the beginning of this game, Kiryu is just kind of a cool buff guy. But after exploring his friendships, seeing him have fun, and just interacting with people, I realized that this is much more. So when things take a bad turn and we're at our lowest point, you really feel it, more than almost any other game. Yakuza
Half the clips there were slowed down because they weren't actually long enough.
is about life, with all the beautiful ecstasy, awful tragedy, and everything in between. Fights are never just fun in Yakuza. They can be comedic, cathartic, or just really goddamn cool. Activities make you feel like a part of the world, and every cutscene is filled with emotion and personality.
This part of the video is distinctly a little slower than the rest of the video. But honestly, after I get more subscribers, after I realize that this is more of a business, after I feel like I want to upload more videos more frequently, that conclusions editing is my template going forward for possible future projects where I don't have to edit as hard. Like, maybe it's just a little video, or it's a side thing, or it's something that I make after I have 1 million subscribers and I want to chill a little bit because I want to stop stressing out over work. The editing in that conclusion is still my editing, but it's slightly slower and it gives you a little more time and it's slightly easier to edit. It would be like that, basically. I wanted to try it out, and it's hard for me. It's hard for me to edit slow. It really is. I always have too much, I always have more jokes, more funnies, more humor than I can fit in a video all the time. So,
When I first played, I thought that Yakuza was all over the place, that it was somehow messy. But now I realize that life is fucking messy, and that's okay. I want to thank all of the Yakuza bosses who are using my...
Thanks for watching, guys. I hope that this is a good format that you like, the sort of watch-along format. I also want to thank the guy who had the N-word in his name in Patreon for possibly changing his name so that I did not have to manually censor it every single time.